Good morning students. Dear students, in the previous lecture we have done type of the riveted joints, that is lap joint, butt joints and single riveted lap joint, double riveted lap joint, triple riveted lap joint. Similarly, single riveted butt joint, double riveted butt joint, triple riveted butt joint and comparison between the lap joint and butt joints. So next is arrangements of rivets there. So rivets are arranged in the three ways. First is chain riveted joint, second zigzag riveted joint, third is diamond riveted joint. So what is chain riveted joint? So as shown in this figure, in a chain riveted joint, every rivet of a row is opposite to the other rivet of the other row. So in this is the chain riveted lap joint. So these are the two rows. This is first row, this is second row. So it means rivet of first row is opposite to the rivet of the second row. So that is, rivets are opposite to each other in the two rows. The rivets in the first row and second row, rivets are opposite to each other as shown in the figure. And the distance between the two rows, the distance, this is first row, this is second row, the distance between the two rows should not be less than 2d plus 6 mm, where d is the nominal diameter of the rivets. So this small p, this is the pitch of rivets. So pitch of rivets, small p, that is center to center distance between two adjacent rivets is the pitch of rivets. So this capital P represents the force, load acting on the joint, and B is the width of the joint. So similarly, this is the chain riveted butt joint. So in the chain riveted butt joint, there are two rows, first row, second row. So rivet in the first row are opposite to the corresponding rivets in the second row. So this rivet is opposite to this rivet opposite to this rivet. This is chain riveted butt joint, and the distance between the two rows should not be less than 2d plus 6 mm. So second is zigzag riveted joint. So zigzag riveted joint, the spacing of the rivets is staggered in such a way that every rivet is in the middle of the two rivets of the opposite row. So this is the lap joint, and this is the one row, this is the second row, this is first row, this is second row. So rivet in the first row is in the middle of the two rivets of the other row. So this rivet is in the middle of these two rivets. So similarly, this rivet is in the middle of these two rivets. So the rivets are staggered in such a way that every rivet is in the middle of the two rivets of the other row of the opposite row, and the distance between the two rows should not be less than 2d. So where d is the nominal diameter of the rivet, the distance between the two rows, these are two rows, this distance should not be less than 2d. So this is the zigzag riveted butt joint. So in this butt joint, this is one row, this is second row, this is third row, fourth row. So the rivet in one row is in the middle of the two rivets. So this rivet, the rivet in this row is in the middle of the two rivets of the other row. So this is one row, this is second row. So ਇਸ ਰਿਵਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਿਵਟ ਹੈ, this is in the middle of the two rivets of the other row. So third is diamond riveting. So diamond riveting, it is zigzag riveting. Diamond riveting, it is also zigzag riveting, in which the number of rivets decrease as we proceed from the innermost row to the outermost row. So diamond riveting is used only in butt joints. So this is butt joint. So the number of rivets decrease from the innermost, this is the innermost row, this is the first row, second row, third row. The number of rivets decrease as we proceed from the innermost row to the outermost row. So this is the joint. So this is the joint, this is the innermost row. The number of rivets decrease as we proceed from the innermost row. So then failure of the riveted joint. So a riveted joint may fail in the following ways. So first, failure due to tearing of the plate between the rivet hole and edge of the plate. Second, failure due to tearing of the plate between the rivets of a row. Third, failure due to shearing of rivets. Fourth, failure due to crushing or bearing of the rivet or plate. So first, failure due to tearing of the plate between the rivet hole and edge of the plate. So if the edge distance is not sufficient, then the tearing of the plate between the rivet hole and edge of the plate may take place. So this is the rivet. So this is the edged stance. This is the edged stance. If this edged stance is not sufficient, if this edged stance is not according to the steel table IS 800 steel code, if this edged stance is not according to the IS steel code 800, then failure, this failure may take place. मतलब अगर ये edged stance जिन्ना सानू चाहिए अगर जो उस तो घट है, then failure may take place. So second, so this is the lap joint. This is the lap joint. This is the one plate. This is the second plate, and this is the edge of the plate. This is the center of the rivet. This is the edged stance. If the edged stance is not sufficient, then the tearing of the plate between the rivet hole and edge of the plate may occur, and this failure can be avoided by providing sufficient edged stance. Second, failure due to tearing of the plate between the rivets of a row. So this is the rivets of a row. ठीक है ना? Failure due to tearing of the plate between the rivets of a row. This is the pitch of rivets. This is the pitch of rivets. That is center to center distance between the two rivets. So this is also known as tension failure. Tension failure may take place when the applied load is more than the safe tensile strength of the plate. When the applied load, this load, if this applied load is more than the safe tensile strength of the plate, then such type of failure, this tension failure takes place. And because the strength of plate is reduced by rivet holes. The strength of the plate, जिन्ने rivets ज़्यादा होंगे एक रो दे विच, उन्नी उदी जिहड़ी strength है plate दी घटदी जानी है. तो strength of the plate is reduced by rivet holes. So the failure due to tearing of the plate between the rivets of a row, this failure is also known as tension failure, and tension failure takes place when the applied load is more than the safe tensile strength of the plate. This is the tension failure. So third, failure due to shearing of rivets. Failure due to shearing of the rivets will shear off if the applied load exceeds the safe shear strength of the rivets. So when the applied load exceeds the safe shear strength of the rivets, then the shearing of the rivets take place. Or so this is the lap joint. In case of the lap joint, the rivets are in single shear. Single shear means failure of the rivet takes place only at one place. The rivets shear at only one place. This is the single shear. So single shear failure occurs in the lap joint. The lap joint. So due to the lap joint, so if the two plates are joined by riveted joint, and this is the single shear failure. This is the shear failure in the lap joint. So in case of the butt joint with single cover plate, the rivets are in single shear. So this is the butt joint. So the cover plate is provided only on the one side. So single shear failure. Single shear failure means failure at only one place will take place, because the rivets will shear off. The rivets will shear only at one place, that is single shear failure. If the rivets shear off at two places, that is called double shear failure. So in case of the lap joint and butt joint with single cover plates, the rivets are in single shear. The single shear failure occurs. In case of the butt joint with double cover plates, so this is the butt joint with double cover plates. So the rivets will shear off at two places. The rivet will shear off at two places. This is the double shear failure in the double cover butt joint. So next is failure due to crushing or bearing of the rivet or plate. If one of the plate in a joint is weaker than the other, so these are the two plates. For example, this is the bottom plate and the top plate is weaker, then the crushing of this plate takes place. Because this plate is weak, so the crushing of this plate occurs. This is the bearing failure of the plate. So failure due to crushing or bearing of rivet or plate. If one of the plate in a joint is weaker than the other, then the crushing of that place will take place. This is the bearing failure of the plate. So the rivets will get crushed if the applied load is more than the safe bearing strength of the rivet. If the applied load is more than the safe bearing strength of the rivets, then the rivets will be